All right. Good afternoon. I am so pumped to be with y'all again. It's the Living a Purposeful Lifestyle show. I'm Jason Riggs, your host today, as I am every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central. I've got a new look to the show today. I hope you like it. And today I have a very special guest that I've actually gotten to know really well over the last 2 months. I've been on his show with Ira Bowman on Saturday's Cup of Joe. And this guy is the real Batman, the real Bruce Wayne, the finance guy, and just a great individual. And I'm super pumped to share him with all of you because what he does is really serve a great purpose for unconventional type of financing for purchases for people that really need access to funding but can't get it in the normal channels. So welcome to the show, Joe, that finance guy, Stepke. Joe, welcome to the show. So glad you could be here today. Joe, we're having a little bit of time of hearing you. The audio's not working. We still can't hear you, Joe. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty here. He said 1 minute here. I read his lips, so see if we can get the audio. We tested this before we went live. It would with live TV, you never know what's going to happen. So just so while we're waiting on Joe, I think he's going to dial out and dial back in. So I'm here on location in Florida. As many of you know, I'm on vacation, and I had the privilege of I'm actually hosting live today from some good friends of ours that we used to live next door to when we lived in Ohio. And this is their backyard. I'm on their screen porch. It's been a great last 36 hours or so. And it's just been nice to be outside where the temperature is just immaculate. It's that perfect temperature where it's not too hot, not too cold, and you're able to just feel. I'm just curious to who all's joining us out there. If you've got questions for Joe as he dials back in here, I could really use your help with asking him some tough questions about financing and things like that, and what are the best ways to finance new purchases, especially things like cell phones and tablets and those things that maybe are not extremely expensive, but still maybe for some of you that it makes more sense to finance those. Let's see here. Okay, I've got Joe back. All right, Joe, I think we got you now.
You do, because
all right.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Great. Thank gosh. Thank God. Excuse me. That was weird. I had to disconnect off of my car and go to my AirPods. So now it's okay. So sorry about that, snafu, but I'm on the road. So
yes, I was telling all the viewers at home. I'm on vacation, and here you are hustling it out in Indianapolis. So, Joe, I introduced you, so everybody kind of knows. So, how in the world did you get into the finance game? Like, I guess at first, let's define what it is that you do. So, when you call yourself the finance guy, what is it that you do, Joe?
All right. One of the things what I do is I actually offer an alternative payment option for retail stores at no cost to them. So it's an alternative payment option. So if somebody can't get approved through traditional lines of credit, they would use the program that I offer and get approved up to $5,000. They get approved in 25 seconds, up to 5,000. And that's about it. They go shopping, get what they want, pay a small initial payment, and they get the merchandise right away.
Awesome. So how do you go about finding those new merchants? for really these companies that could really utilize your service?
Wow, how do I find them? It's all over. You're talking about hustling. So, I've been working for the company, and can I start off by saying something, Jason? All the
Sure.
thoughts and everything that I express or opinions that I express today are of Joe Stepke, Joe the finance guy, not of Acima Credit or Rent-A-Center. So I just want to make sure I get that out of the way. So with that being said, I've worked for Acima for almost 6 years. It's 5+ years now, but almost 6 years. With that being said, I've built up such a base. I've signed up over, hundreds of locations over the time, and I search them out through referrals. Referrals would be big for me. Through LinkedIn, social media. People get to see me, they know me, and they reach out to me through that. So referrals, social media, as well as going out there and looking for business, like hustling, just going out there. If I'm driving down the road and I see an appliance shop, I'm stopping in there to go, hey, how would you like an option that costs you nothing, but I'm going to help increase your sales by at least, $60,000 a year in just the one location. And that's for just the regular mom and pop store.
Wow, that's a pretty big impact on their top line number, their lifeblood,
Yeah.
especially at no cost. When y'all incur all the costs to set this up, how can they lose?
Correct. Right. It's a no-brainer. I talk about that a lot with people. I go, what do you have to lose? And the other thing that sets me apart, where I became Joe the finance guy, actually, it was all about what could I do to help people? What could I do to help them grow their business? So even though that somebody signed up with me, the relationship doesn't stop there. I want to help them grow their business. I want to talk to them about, are you doing any guerrilla marketing out there? I get it with the pandemic, like going door to door, handshake is a little bit different, but it was about, let's talk about guerrilla marketing. Where do you go to lunch at? Oh, do you go to lunch at the McDonald's across the street? Have you ever thought about going in there and talking to the manager and going, hey, listen, all your employees and you are automatically gold card members with us over at Joe's Furniture Shop over here. And it's just a different way to get their mind thinking of it on how to grow their business to get more people in without paying another marketing person or whatever, because I work for them. And that's how I've always treated it. I work for them.
Yeah, and I think having gotten to know you, I know that you are very passionate about the people that you work with and for, and that it's important to you that you bring value to them outside of just the financing piece of it. So, Joe, I got to ask you, and it's interesting because we've talked a number of times, and I've never have heard this story, and maybe I've shared it previously, but how did you get into this? You said you've been there about, I believe you just said 6 years, but how on earth did you get into this? I want to hear the story, the backstory.
Oh boy, how did I get into being Joe the finance guy, or how did I get into what I'm doing right now as Acima?
I think
there's two different stories. The Joe the finance guy, believe it or not, that actually is a funny story. It happened about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was going to see one of my retailers up in Valparaiso, Indiana. And it's luxury mattress and furniture. Scott McKinney, great person, awesome. And I remember we were talking about referrals. Because no matter where I go, I always ask for referrals. It's almost like, hey, do you know anybody that could use an alternative payment option? If you do, remember, give him my number, Joe the finance guy. And it wasn't Joe the finance guy, but it was just give him my number. Well, Scott and I, at that time, he was talking to me, he goes, Joe, how could I refer somebody to you? And I looked at him really weird, and I was going, what are you talking about? You give him my phone number. He goes, no. You need something catchy, like like a website, like something like I don't know, like financing by Joe. And I swear he went on GoDaddy, and I thought he bought it at that time or something like that. Like, and you could buy this from me, or something, just something funny. And if you know Scott, like I know Scott, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
But I go like this. You know what? I don't know. I'll think about it. But for now, Scott, just give him my phone number. Okay. So I leave. Now that was on a Monday. By the end of the week, now I'm up in like Valparaiso's upper part of Indiana. So now by Friday, I'm in Shelbyville, and I'm talking to Grant Sparks, and it was called the Mattress Chick at the time was the name of the business, but they changed it. But I was talking to him, and he said, and you're talking about the universe actually talking to you. And he says something to me. They don't know each other, nothing. And he says, Joe, if I wanted to refer someone to you, how could I do that? So obviously my antennas went up, and I was like, you're kidding me, right? And the first thing in my mind, does nobody know to just give a name and a phone number anymore? And he goes, I know I could give them your phone number, but do you have your own website or something that I know you're going to get credit for it, nobody else? I went, oh. He goes, I'd look into something like that. So right there, I believe the universe was telling me something. So I'm driving home that night, back to Noblesville, and I'm talking to my wife, and I go, I got to think of something. I want to get a website. She goes, you do it? I go, yeah. And I got to get something like a logo for me, because I always thought, on a side note, I always thought there was 3 ways you could grow a business. 1, have a catchy slogan, something catchy, like, hey, thanks for calling Joe the Finance Guy, home of the $50 write it away layaway, whatever, you want to call it. Or
Right.
$50 take it away layaway. 2, a social media presence. And 3, having a website. So I needed a catchy slogan. And I was asking my wife, and I go like this, you know what? And I kept thinking of what Scott said, financing by Joe. And it didn't ring. And I went, and then I was thinking about, all right, the way I dress. And being like, just being like, hey, I know a guy type thing. So then I went like this, what about Joe the Finance Guy? What about JoeTheFinanceGuy.com? So I got home, I ran out into the back cave, I got on GoDaddy, and that was the first thing I saw was, all right, great, it's clear, I'm buying it. And I bought JoeTheFinanceGuy.com. I bought all that stuff. I got it all done. And then obviously I trademarked and, in the process of copywriting and everything else. But that was the first start of it. And then my wife goes, I can do the logo for you, because she does some of that Cricut stuff or whatever, like making T-shirts and cups, or I don't know, whatever. So she actually made the logo. And I did this on LinkedIn years back. I put four sets of the logo up. She wanted to put like my hat with the vest and stuff like that. And then we just decided on Joe the Finance Guy with the hat over the O.
Right.
And so I got the logo, I got the slogan, and then I got the website. And that's how it all started, because I wanted to separate myself from all these other tertiary financing companies that are out there. And tertiary it means third, but you have traditional financing, you have secondary financing, which is still credit based, and then you have a tertiary type, and that's where we fall into. A lease to own option is a tertiary financing. So I want it to be more than just a tertiary finance guy that just signs up people. I wanted to be someone that they could call on, that they could go and go, hey, Joe, I need somebody to do, I need help, with my website. Do you know anybody that designs it? And obviously that's where I came up with the partners tab, where I actually came up with it. And it's like, I know a guy, so I know a person that could do that. If somebody needs something on sales, on recruiting, I knew people that I could set up to put there. So that's basically how it started to help more people get better, or not get better, but get more value than just, hey, thanks for signing up with me. I wanted to give somebody more value. I hope that answers the question.
No, that's a great answer to the Joe the finance question. I guess I'm interested to know both. So like, let's take a step back and say before that, like, how did you get into this tertiary financing? Like, how did that happen, or what? I find with people that are really successful, and I know you're really top of your game of what you do, Joe. The thing that I always like to find is the magic, and that is, I call it tripping their trigger, right? Like, so when I got in the convenience store industry 18 years ago, I gotta be honest with you, I didn't know at the time. I did not go into it thinking this is going to be what I do. No one on their last 2 weeks of high school, where you write out your dream sheet, writes, I'm going to be running convenience stores. Nobody does that, right? Like, nobody. But when I went to work for there, I'll be honest with you, I was very apprehensive about it. I thought, I'll go work as a manager for them for a year or so, get some experience, and then go work for a real company like Walgreens or Walmart. And I'll tell you, 2 weeks, that's all it took. 2 weeks, I knew exactly what I was supposed to be doing. That small business, small retail, convenience store was in my blood, and the rest is history. So I'm curious for you, what tripped your trigger? How did you get into this? What was the backstory?
Well, it's a long and sad tale, Jason. No, on a serious note, how did I get into this? We would have to go all the way. I mean, and if I was and going all the way back, I know on my LinkedIn profile it says Army veteran to stand-up comedian to Joe the finance guy. And when I was growing up, I wanted to be the class clown. I always wanted to make people laugh. I always believed if I made people laugh, it just made them feel better, and it made me feel better that way. So that was always in my mindset. So when I was younger, I wanted to be an actor. I really did. I wanted to be an actor. But somewhere it turned, and then I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to go into law enforcement. And my dad used to hate that I would say cop all the time. Dad, I want to be a cop. He goes, cops don't call themselves cops. And I go like this, well, I want to be a cop. He goes, why don't you be an actor portraying to be a cop? I go, and then you won't get hurt. I go, no, I really want to go into law enforcement. So when I graduated high school, I did numerous jobs, but I went into the delayed entry program for the military. Loved it. I went in as a military police officer. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I wish I would have stayed in. There was a previous injury. I have a pin in my hip, and one leg is shorter than the other. I got out. When I got out, and during this time, I was married too. My ex-wife has probably a dim recollection. I think we got it annulled or whatever. We weren't even married a year, so don't ever get married. But anyways, it was a quick marriage. I think I knew her 2 weeks and I asked her to marry me. So probably not the best thing, but she's a great person, and I'm going to say it was all my fault. But anyways, I get out. I started working at Boca Raton Community Hospital as a payroll staffing coordinator, and I had the best time, and I was doing stand-up comedy on the side. So it was fun for me that I'd get off and I'd do just open mic stuff. And that was great. And from there, I worked at Discovery Zone. I don't know if you remember that, Jason DZ at Discovery Zone. Wayne
Yep.
Huizinga used to own that back in the day. And I went from there to, where did I go next? I went to TJ Maxx. I started doing loss prevention. So that started getting me back into law enforcement. I loved doing the loss prevention. And I wasn't a good kid. One of the things I'll tell you, and I say it, I've said it to people before, why was I good at my job at loss prevention? I always said it takes a thief to catch a thief. And I wasn't a good kid when I was younger. I was actually, it's ironic, I wanted to go into law enforcement. And my father and mother probably would tell you stories that you guys wouldn't believe. Well, my father couldn't anymore, but they did. I know that they have plenty of stories because my mother will start telling my kids about them and we go, no, don't do that. But anyways, I started doing loss prevention and I moved up to South Carolina from Florida. And when I moved up to South Carolina, I met my current wife at the Lowe's. She was the head cashier and I was loss prevention. And we met, my wife being a New York Italian that everybody knows. I think I've said this numerous times, but the first time I met her, I really fell in love with her. It was the way she talked. I mean, I'm in South Carolina. I have a northern accent where everybody has that southern drawl a little bit. And then I meet my wife who has the New York accent. And the first words she ever said to me was, "What are you doing behind my counter?" And I remember that. And I remember me trying to step over, oh, I'm here to get reports or whatever. I don't care. You don't come behind my counter. I don't know you. And I remember that whole thing, and the rest is history. Now she's my wife, and we've been married for 21 years. But we couldn't stay together being at Lowe's, so I started working for a company called Rentway. And Rentway was a lease-to-own. It was one of the big three. Aaron's, Rent-A-Center, and Rentway were the three big rent-to-own chains back in the day. And I started working for Rentway as a delivery driver. And I worked my way up. I would say after, and you're right, about 2 weeks, I loved it. I loved doing what I was doing. I loved talking to people. I was working as a delivery driver. It was almost like I was working out every day. I put furniture. It was like working out. So it was fun for me. And that's what started me on the rent-to-own side of the business. I worked my way up to regional manager in development at Rentway. I worked for a company called JD Byrider, which was,
cars.
Cars. But I worked on the CNHC side, which also had to do with collections. So that was fun. I went back to work for Rentway Rent-A-Center, and I worked for Aaron's. And then I worked for the second largest franchise for Aaron's, which was called Rosie Rentals. And I was part equity owner in that. So then when we sold, it was a life-changing event for myself. And moved up here to Indianapolis. So
that's awesome.
And once I was here for Indianapolis, worked for Aaron's for a little bit on the corporate side. And then we worked, there was a CEO his name was Ken Butler at the time. Once they changed, I went to, my position got dissolved, let go, whatever you want to call it. And I started working for Acceptance Now, Rent-A-Center. And it was almost like the Acima side, except you had to deal with collections and manned locations. And we were doing great. My district was number one. They wanted me to become an RD at the time. I just wouldn't move. And my boss at the time, Hoss Stamper, great guy. I think he works for oh man, I can't even think of the name. Hobby Lobby. Great person, faith driven, just awesome person. And that's the second time I met somebody that was a great leader. Hoss Stamper was the second one. Michael Bennett was my original mentor, and he's actually the CEO of Buddy Rents now. So, anyways, I went to Acceptance Now, and Hoss got something happened. He wasn't working for the company anymore. The new person that came in, that person didn't like me that much for some reason. I don't know why. I do know why. I'm not going to mention it on TV. And they dissolved my position. And I was doing great over there. So another person that worked for Acceptance Now as an RD as well, or DM, she was working for Simple Finance, and she talked to the CEO of Simple, which was Aaron, and told him about me. And she goes, if you're looking for somebody for Indiana, there's only one person I can tell you, and it would be Joe Stepke. And next thing you know, Aaron talked to me, and I started out, and at that time, what they started me out at was half the pay I was making at Aaron's and making less than what I was at Acceptance Now. But I looked at everything. I looked at, all right, so what I had to do, like signing people up, talking to merchants, and I started really getting involved going, my God, this is a great option to have, because I could go to any furniture, jewelry, cell phone, all these places, get them signed up, and they could have their own mini, lease to own option in their store at, where it costs them nothing, and they're not chasing after the merchandise. We're taking all the risk, and we're paying them for the merchandise, and the customer pays us. And I started going, there is no downside on this. And I started signing up like in Indiana, and it just grew because the people I knew, not just from social media, but the people I knew from my past. I was able to call up people, and that's how I was signing up people all over the United States. And next thing you know, I just became where I'm at now. It was just such a great option, and I'm sorry I go long on this telling about my story, and I probably skipped a lot of steps in there.
I think you gave us a really good. So one thing that I want to kind of dive into a little bit, when people hear about these third-party lending and tertiary and all this, I think there's a lot of people that look at it as predatory, right? Like, because the interest rates are high, there's a lot of risk associated with it. What I want to tell a story, a quick story. So Jason Ricks went through the hardest part in his life it's probably been right at 18 years ago now. And what happened to me was, I ended up in a relationship out of the military with children, and came home one day. I was out of the service working. I came home after working all day to a surprise notice from the sheriff to get out of the house, and we're getting divorced. No talk about it, no anything. I'm living 1,000 miles from my family. I have nothing. I can't take anything. And I ended up renting a room. And when I first got there, I had a blow-up mattress. I had a two bags of clothes. And I believe I had one of those old, nasty, huge, heavy TVs, a 32-inch TV with the tubes in the back, like just enormously heavy. Believe it or not, in short order, I can't pay bills, so I can't get any financing. I can't get any credit to get a bed or just some basic things that I need. And Aaron's offered me or provided an option for me to get a bed and a chest drawer, and I was able to pay for it and accumulate it. And listen, I know that I paid far more in the long run for it, but if Aaron's hadn't been there, there was no option for me to go the conventional way. I didn't have the money to buy the bed, and I didn't have any way to finance it. So for me, it represented an opportunity to get a few necessities that I really needed. And
Right.
so I get it. There are times where I think it's all behind the business that's doing it and how they run their business. But I could tell you that I think that sometimes that it's easy to sit in judgment when life is good and you have means and ability to do things the conventional way. But when you don't, thank God there are opportunities like what you provide to people because so I just wanted you to talk a little bit about that because I think that sometimes it gets a bad rap for what it is.
No, and I agree with you because believe it or not, it's almost like hair club for men. You and I should know about that. I'm not only the president of the company, I'm a client. So, and I joke about that just because, lack of, but I had the same situation that happened to me when I moved up from Florida to South Carolina. Before I met Jen, I had nothing. And so I had to use that rentway that I worked at before I actually worked there. And it was just because I needed stuff. I didn't have the credit. I mean, I destroyed my credit.
That's
And
right.
it just, those things happen. I do appreciate, well, a couple things. Jason, thank you very much for your service. Two, I appreciate you sharing. I know it's your show, but I do appreciate you sharing that because that just shows, how transparent you are. And it is true. Things like that happen to people every day. Just because you're living high on the hog now, it does not matter what's going to, you don't know where you're going to be tomorrow. And I was just talking, I've said this twice in the past 24 hours, and now it's going to be three times. You want to be the ant, not the grasshopper from the fable, from the story. You want
That's
to be
right.
able to save and put things away and not be the grasshopper and go, no, it's all right. Because you never know when something's going to happen. I've been there. You don't want to know some of the rat traps that I had to live in before I met my current wife, and it was terrible. I've eaten the government cheese. I've been there, and I know what it's like to build yourself back up. And I think the best part of it is when we do build ourselves up, and that there is a program, Joe the finance guy, that if somebody, a retailer needs something like that, call me. I'd help them not only have the program, in their store, but also how do they get other customers in? It's not about just the financing option. It's about how can I get other customers in for you? What could you do on there? Like, are you going on deliveries? Well, yeah, we do deliveries like 5 to 10 a day. Great. Have you ever thought about taking door hangers and putting them 5 up or 5 down from where that customer that you're delivering at? Remember, winners hang out with winners. So if one customer is using your merchandise, why wouldn't the other ones around them try to go and get merchandise from you as well? So,
That's right.
sorry. Yep.
No, I think that's good. So I know that you're on the road. You're talking about, you're up in northern Valparaiso and you get around. So having known a lot of guys that are traveling kind of sales guys, I have to ask you, for the viewers at home, do you have a story, one or two stories that are just great road stories or even of stories with maybe, I used to hear, I heard this is a great story. I heard a story about a salesman. So I can't remember. I would love to give credit for this, but I think he was the original Procter & Gamble. So when Procter & Gamble first started, they were sold by, guys out of suitcases, right? They would go around and they would sell toothpaste, these home goods, right? Well, there was a particular guy, and he went into this drugstore, and the drugstore guy had gotten disenfranchised with the product or a bill, that he was upset. Okay, and I think the story comes from Dale Carnegie, actually. Now that I think about it, but long story short, he comes in and he decides that he's done with Procter & Gamble. He's not going to carry their products anymore, and he basically fires the salesman. So, the salesman leaves. He takes his products. He's feeling defeated, and he leaves. 2 weeks later, he's in the area and run into the guy at the local coffee shop, and the business owner says, "Hey, I'm really sorry about what happened last time you were in town. Do you mind stopping by this afternoon and seeing me at the shop?" "Sure, no problem." So the salesman goes to his shop and sees him and basically, he basically not only replaces the items that he had canceled, but he takes every item that he possibly could get from the sales guy. And so the sales guy asked him, what happened, or why the change of heart, or what's going on. And he said, "Well, you remember that day you came in and I told you I didn't want any more and we were done with you?" "Yes, sir, I do." He goes, "Well, first of all, you didn't yell, you didn't scream, you took and you left very graciously. And you said goodbye to the staff on your way out, each one individually." And he's like, after you left, each one of them came up and said, "What in the world are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he said, "Why did you fire him? He's the nicest salesperson that comes in. He's the only one that even acknowledges us, talks to us, or says anything to us whatsoever. What are you doing?" And so the owner came to appreciate that the salesman was doing right, and basically he had taken his frustration with a billing issue out on the salesperson, and they mended the fence, got it. And long story short, that's the lesson that Dale Carnegie was talking about was it doesn't cost anything to be nice, and
Right.
that when you're nice and you do the right things, that good things happen. So I'm just curious, do you have a story somewhat like that, or maybe similar, that you can share with us?
Oh man, I'll do one because where I'm sitting now. I'm close to where it happened at, as a matter of fact. So, and she called me yesterday. This person. So, it's Stop and Shop thrift store. They used to have a small store on Pendleton Pike in Indianapolis. And when I first started with the SEMA, I was trying to go more in Indianapolis because more saturated. And I would stop by there. I think I did Indianapolis on Fridays because it was sort of close to home and saturated, but I always would stop there on a Friday. And this person, they would tell me, no, we don't need it. We don't use any of that stuff. The regular thing that I got, and this was 5 years ago. And other people started using me. And I guess they were at a auction, the owner and another owner that I did business with. And they go, "Hey, have you heard about this Acima place?" And they started talking about me. And they go, "You got to sign up." So the husband went back and was talking to his wife. He goes, "Hey, have you ever heard of this guy?" She goes, "Yeah, he comes in almost every week or whatever." But he goes, "Why aren't we signed up with him?" So the other owner, and I can't remember their name, but she called me up and said, "Hey, listen, they're going to be calling you. They want to sign up. I talked to Tim. They're excited. You just need to go over there." So I knew I wasn't going to break from what I do usually. I was going there on Friday anyways. So I did my regular visit. And this time it was like, "Hey, how you doing?" I go like this, "Hey, how are you?" And she goes, "Hey, I want to sign up with you." I go, "That is great." And I got them signed up where they were doing maybe 5 to 10 deals a month. Now they do about 50. So they're great people. And Mary and Tim are just awesome. There's so many great people that I know. I could call out Greg Uloho. There's just so many great people that became my friend and not just a merchant that I do business with. Because these people are the ones, they call me up Like I've been on the phone with all of them and talking to them about different things. It's not necessarily about a SEMA. It could be about their business. It could be about it could be about life. But
Amen.
That one that became a great friendship as well, where Mary and Tim can call me up at any time, and I'll talk to them about anything and help them through with anything. Oh wow! There's a couple squad cars going by here. Indianapolis, thank you very much. So, and it's still nothing like Chicago. But anyways, that was one of them where you say it pays to be nice. She wasn't even signed up with me a couple times before, and I would go in there. Hold on a minute. I'm going to put my plug in for a minute. Hold on. Good. All right. Good. It's charging. I would stop in there and put their merchandise onto the sidewalk. So I would help them. Like I would go there and I would help move their merchandise out onto the sidewalk for them. They weren't even signed up with me. I would just go there because I believe it. I know that people do pressure sales. I've never been a pressure salesperson. I want people to do business with me because they know me, they like me, and they trust me. That's what I want. Why I want people to do business with me, because I want them to know it doesn't matter that it's a SEMA that they're using or whatever. They use it because of Joe, and I've proven that time and time again. That it's not about the marquee; it's about the salesperson or the person that's selling the product.
That's right.
So,
well, and I think that you said a lot there, and that is, good business relationships typically are built on. Barbara Cochran, Shark Tank, has a saying,
yep.
and that saying is people first, then business. I think she got it from Susie Orman as well, but for whatever reason, the first time I heard that, it really stuck with me. Like, and I try to even do that in my business where I keep that in mind. Like, if you focus primarily and you look at what I do here on LinkedIn and just in general, I'm very much about building relationships with people first, and then a business comes from it. Great. If not, I still got the friendship. And by doing that, what I have found is, like, one, it sets people at ease, right? Because when the whole focus is, I just want to get to know you and you seem like a great person and I would like to have you as a friend. The business just comes, you know what I mean? And it doesn't always come right away. I mean, there's times where you may be friends with somebody and really not have a direct correlation of business that you need to do right now. And it could be 3, 4, 5 years later and you get a call and it's like, hey, well, what's going on? What's new with you? Well, I'm doing good. What are you up to? And you catch up. And the next thing you know, they get to the cut to the chase. Go, hey, I got this situation I need your help with. Okay, great. And boom, you're done. But I just think that when people build businesses the right way, which means from a relationship first and then the business second, it changes the game.
You'll get more out of it. It is. I'll give you an example now. And I hope he doesn't get mad. So Brian Burke, I am calling you out, but Brian Burke, the Mac man, he has a company called sellyourmac.com. And he is going to be on Cup of Joe this Saturday too, as a matter of fact. But sellyourmac.com. And he also sells, I think it's renewedmac.com. On there, but we were talking about doing business with the SEMA, and we became friends, and really we really became friends. I love to say that he lives in Ohio, and it was just all LinkedIn and everything else. We became friends, and I think that's why that he is doing business with me, just because we just have a lot in common. And I was on vacation last week. I stopped in to sellyourmac.com just to see it. I didn't even tell him I was coming. I just stopped in, and he one of his employees, got there. Brian was behind closed doors. I go, don't bother him. I'm just staying up the road, because where we were staying was like 8 minutes up the road, maybe 16 minutes, but whatever. It wasn't that far up the road. I go, just tell him I'll stop by, and I'll just shoot him a text. So I went outside. I took a picture of me in front of his building, and I sent it to him, and he responded back right away when he sees like my text or whatever, day or night. And the same with him when he texts me if I'm up. And Brian, you know what I'm talking about. When you start sending me texts at 11 o'clock, the old man's in bed. Anyways, he responded right back. He goes, "Are you here?" I go, "Yeah, I'm right outside, and I'm coming in right now." So I went back in. He thought I photoshopped that and photoshopped me into his business. And next thing you know, he took a picture with me right there. He was on a business call, but he goes like this, "All right, time out. I got to see Joe. I got to see my friend." Because it was the first time that I was seeing him. I just wanted to go over there and just go, "Hey, listen, I'm here." But I really believe relationships are everything. The relationships I have, like Greg Uloho, Justin Phillips, Earl Dunlap. There's so many. Ryan Bishop, Roy Radloff, who's part of Brand Source, and Angie Bishop, or Andy Bishop. There are just so many great people out there that I have met over the years that I really consider them friends. That when they call me, I'll listen to them. I'll talk to them. And that's what
Absolutely.
I think that's what separates salesmen from great salesmen, because I don't think of myself as a salesperson. Yes, I sell a SEMA. Yes, I am Joe the finance guy, but I really like to get to know people as them. And just like on LinkedIn, and Jason, I know we're coming to the end almost, but just like on LinkedIn, there are so many great people I've met. Jason, you're one of them. Ira Bowman was somebody that I met 3 or 4 years ago when he hardly had any following. I mean, he didn't have as many as he does now. And that's how I knew him. And I was asking him questions about different things. But Rachel Beck, great person. Great, just awesome. I mean, I really got to have a great conversation with her for an hour and really got to know her, as well as her knowing me. And it just taking the online, offline, you really get to know more about a person. There's just so many great people. And even though that I might never do business with like Rachel or Damon or anybody directly, indirectly, they go like this: "Oh, wait a minute, you're looking for an alternative payment option? I know a guy." And they'd be able to flip them over to Joe the finance guy. And that's how it works. And not to mention, I'll do this. So Tia, I'm giving you a shout out. Tia D, she is an ASM for SEMA as well. And she calls me the Tony Robbins of LinkedIn, because she's always responding to my stuff. She follows everything I have. Her and I are in the same region. She just recently got a message from somebody from one of my posts to her to get them signed up on something. It was just great. And that's what I want to do, to put it out there and give the awareness and help lift people up. It's not always about, hey, listen, I want it all. It's about how can I help others too. That's
absolutely right. So we are here at the end. First of all, thank you for sharing all your stories and your history and a lot about what you do. So I know how this show works. So there's going to be somebody probably watch this back either later today, tomorrow, maybe that does not know Joe Stepke. If they're looking for that alternative finance solution, and they like to learn more. What is the best way to get a hold of you, Joe?
Go to joethefinanceguy.com.
All right. So there you have it. So before we close the show out, I always end it the same way every week, and that is, there's people that tune in, and there's people that are always looking for encouragement and looking for, they're in that moment where you and I were back in the day on that blow-up mattress or just trying to rebuild. So for someone trying to live a more personal lifestyle, what advice would you give them, Joe?
I would say it's about persistence. I would think persistence. When people told me no, something couldn't be done, I always found ways of how it could be done. And or if I saw somebody successful at something, I was the one that was able to take it in, digest it, regurgitate it, and make it even better. And I think that's what it is. If you're out there and, and we've all been there, we all have lived in, we've had the low times in our life, get out there and just do something, take action now. Do something that's going to make a difference and improve yourself by just one thing each day. And when you do that, it's going to pile on. I know Tony Robbins talks about this. It's not just 1% after 100 days. It's 100%. No, it starts acting like a snowball. You keep improving yourself every single day. It's like a big, gigantic snowball that all of a sudden you're just doing these great things. You're going, wow, I can't believe I'm here. And that's what I say. Go out there and find it, and please consistently be persistent. Because if I took no as the final answer for everything I ever did, guess what? I wouldn't be where I'm at right now.
That's right. Well, that's some outstanding.
I wouldn't have met my wife because I would have just left. I don't know.
You would have just got out from behind her.
I definitely wouldn't have met my wife. Right. I would have got out behind the counter. I wouldn't have said anything.
Yeah.
I'd have went, okay, ma'am, and just walked out.
Well, I think that piece of advice where you talked about, they say Rome wasn't built in a day, but by God, they laid bricks every day. So lay some bricks and stay consistent with your process and allow perpetuity to take over. So, Joe, thank you for being on the show today. I hope all of you at home enjoyed the show with me being outside. And I'm going to get back to enjoying the vacation, and I look forward to seeing all of you again next Wednesday right here at 3 o'clock for another healthy dose of living a purposeful lifestyle. Again, thanks, Joe, and until then, signing out. Y'all have a great week. Thank you.